So yes, the reason why I get emotional is because I watch how people placate and duplicate and imitate a Reverend Martin Luther King, King and Jesus, while their love for humanity seems to have waxed cold. And I guess I'm included. But when I saw the Valdosta Daily Times today, I had to cut this to let you all know that Dr. King's life and legacy was more than ceremonies. Dr. King did not take a back row seat. Dr. King did not get on city council and then forget his roots. Dr. King didn't go into the military, and if he went to the military, he wouldn't have sold out. He would have stood up for black and white, Latinos and others who were in need. And this is what I've committed my life to. And that's what you see here on Boston G.B.R. I don't put foolishness on this YouTube channel because I love you too much to placate, duplicate, and play games with our children and coming generations of children. And so we're just going to sit maybe and listen and let you see that Dr. King didn't just talk at ceremonies behind closed doors and have his knees shaking and getting all nervous and pucking out under pressure. Dr. King spoke in such a way,
conscientious objection,
calling for,
and I say this morning,
a protest against the war.
It is my hope that every young man in this country who finds this war objectionable and abominable and unjust would file as a conscientious objection. And no matter what you think of Mr. Muhammad Ali's religion.
Now, Muhammad Ali was a Muslim. Some people say Muslim and try to make it ugly. Muslim. And I have no problem with Islam. I love Islam, and I love Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I love Elijah Muhammad, and I love Malcolm X, and I love the rabbis and the imams, and I love the Pope, and I love the ministers, and I love them all. I love the imams in Islam. And I've gone to the masjid, I've gone to the temples in Hindu, I've gone to almost all religions of the world. And I sit down with them, and I want to understand them, and I want to love them. I don't limit myself to the King James Version of the Bible as if though it is the only book with truth in it. I know I could be criticized for that, and it's okay, because I used to do the same thing. But I studied the lost books of the Bible. I studied the Torah. I studied all the great books so I can learn how to love all men, including those in Vietnam. Yes, we fought a war, and we killed innocent men, women, and children. Democrats and Republic, black and white, Jew and Gentile, Protestant, Catholic, Japanese and German and Chinese. And we wasn't even mad with them just because somebody told us to go kill them. We did it without question. Dr. King didn't punk out.
Certainly have to admire his courage.
And that's power. To embrace a religion outside of your own.
A young man willing to give up fame if necessary, willing to give up millions of dollars in order to stand up for what conscience tells him is right. It seems that I can hear the voice crying out through all of the eternities, saying to him this morning, blessed are ye when men shall persecute you.
They're persecuting, lying on Barack Obama, calling him a Hitler, calling him a clown, calling him a hater of white folks, calling him a hater of the Jews, calling him a hater of black folk, calling him ignorant, although he got a college degree, several of them. Still, he's called a lot of dirty names. This is why the brother shines so deep. And regardless of what Hannah and Rush Limbaugh say, history is going to record them as being on the wrong side of history. You watch and you see.
Call you all manner of evil for righteousness' sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward. This we must see and move on in the days ahead. Now let me move on and say just 2 or 3 other things. We must not merely end with a concern about Vietnam, for I'm reminded that Vietnam and that conflict and our involvement happens to be symptomatic of a deeper malady in the American spirit. In 1957, a sensitive American official overseas said that it seemed to him that our nation was on the wrong side of a world revolution. Increasingly by choice or by accident, this is a role our nation has taken. The role of those who make peaceful revolutions impossible by refusing to give up the privileges and the pleasures that comes from the immense profits of overseas investments.
Overseas investments. This is why I know that I'm fulfilling the dream of Dr. King, even though I don't attend these meetings that are given and game plan as I see them. The same thing that Dr. King talked about is what I'm fighting for today, and others like me. And we can't do it at a church service. We can pray at church, but we got to come outside of the walls and tell Georgia politicians that we don't need an at-will to work law, wherein you can be fined for good cause, bad cause, or for no cause at all, and the employers don't even have to tell you why.
Now I'm convinced that if we are to get on the right side of the world revolution, we as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of values. We must rapidly begin to shift from a thing-oriented society to a person-oriented society, when machines and computers, profit motives, and property rights are considered more important than people.
This is why I say the president of Walmart Stores Incorporated, treat your workers right. I'm not Dr. King, but the same principles of that great man can be found in my videos on YouTube, because that same spirit that they thought they had buried when they buried Dr. King, it is arisen in many people today. The only difference is some of us are scared as hell, and scared to the core, scarier than bones, to stand up on our own. But God gonna send us another king, because you can't stop the dream, my friend. The dream can't be stopped. No. You see, in that recyclable spirit, God keep pulling and reaming out from the dream a new reality. You see, in the word dream, you got ream. So you got to ream out from the dream of Dr. King something that will be good for you, your children, and coming generations of children. You dig it?
The giant triplets of racism, militarism, and economic exploitation are incapable of being conquered. A true revolution of values will soon cause us to question the fairness and justice of many of our present policies.
Yes, sir.
On the one hand, we are called to play the Good Samaritan on life's roadside, But that will be only an initial act. One day we must come to see that the whole Jericho road must be changed, so that men and women will not be constantly beaten and robbed as they make their journey on life's highway. True compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar.
You hear that? More than slinging a coin to a beggar. That's why to build a habitat house appears to be a good deed. But more importantly is when you can fight for equal rights, so those people that got the habitat house can get a job just like everybody else and be able to build their own house. As my friend Doc Robinson said, we have had monument constructed down the Martin Luther King corridor and through a grant, but what about if the people in our community through contracts was able to get equal contracts and the blacks could take that money and build their own monument and then tell everybody we did this from our own hands and our own struggle. It would mean more to them if they were able to do it for themselves. I watch people say they feed 6,000, 10,000 people every year. But
a true revolution of value.
Wouldn't it be better for them to be able to feed themselves? I think so.
Will soon look uneasily on the glaring contrast of poverty and wealth with righteous indignation. It will look across the seas and see individual capitalists of the West investing huge sums of money in Asia, Africa, and South America, only to take the profits out with no concern for the social betterment of the countries, and say this is not just. It will look at our alliance with the landed gentry of Latin America and say this is not just. The Western arrogance of feeling that it has everything to teach others and nothing to learn from them is not just. A true revolution of values will lay hands on the world order and say of war, this way of settling differences is not just. This business of burning human beings with napalm.
I'm going to close it out right there. Dr. King cared about somebody outside of himself, talked about burning other people with napalms. And when we stand up, if we're employed in a business and if we are sitting there and we know that an injustice is going on and we refuse to stand up against it to make it better for other Americans and other human beings, and we should be ashamed of ourselves, and we definitely not living the dream of Dr. King. No matter how many times you go to function in January every year and duplicate and imitate that great man, then you are less than who you could be. I'm going to close this out now, and I want you to know, if I've said one word that make you think, if I've said something that offended you, but deep down in your heart you know it's right, please take it out of love, because that's the intent of it. I don't preach hate, for I realize that in hate is the word A-T-E-8, and hate can eat you up. And this is why George Boston Rhymes rather deal in love and search for equality for all men. I don't say that as a game. I say that because it has become a part of the flavor of who I am. This is kvci.blogspot.com. George Boston Rhymes, trying my best to keep you informed because I love you just that much. Bye-bye. We're gone.